Breaking news, Justin Trudeau's $2 billion funding agreement with Telesat that was supposed to improve high-speed internet across Canada has zero requirements to connect any households with high-speed internet. Welcome to the world of government where they don't have any obligations to do what it is that they said they were going to do with our hard-earned tax dollars. Now this has turned into a big scandal, probably bigger than the green slush fund. And Marc Nixon has been covering this extensively, and he's been doing great videos. So I thought, why not call him in and say, hey, why not join me and we can talk about this story in particular. So I'd love to welcome to the show, everybody, Marc Nixon. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Clyde. This is great. I'd love to share my knowledge with your fans.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, I'm actually secretly a fan of your channel. I've been watching you on Instagram for actually quite some time, and now that I know you, I didn't even know you're on TikTok. That you got a huge audience over there. I'm gonna leave all the links in the description for all the social medias where you are. I want everybody to go over there, get you a bigger following on YouTube here. Let's make YouTube your home, perhaps. We could do that. But yeah, you do an amazing work. And I just want to give a big shout out to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and I appreciate that. The whole point, I started a year ago. It's been a huge success on my TikTok, over 118,000 followers on there. My Instagram is 26,300, and I'm just starting YouTube and X. So here we go.
Awesome. Yeah, let's make this happen because you've got some great financial news. And for people who are fans of my channel, they know that I'm a dork when it comes to economics. I really like digging into economics and what's going on. And one thing we all know is that when the government takes over an industry, they fail at that industry and they do such a terrible job. We've seen this over and over and over again, all the way from Mao Zedong's China all the way to current modern day in Canada, where governments are trying to take over businesses. We could, and right now we're talking about a scheme to get rural Canadians better access to the internet. I mean, Elon Musk has been doing it. He's grew up in Canada. He lived in Canada. Why don't we turn to him? Instead, we're throwing billions of dollars away at this company, Telesat. Now, can you tell me a bit about this? Because it seems like such a huge scandal.
Yeah, so basically what they started doing in 2019, I believe, is they sunk several $billions into this company called Telesat. This company does low orbiting satellites, supposed to provide internet. And I mean, they haven't had a track record of success, but they're like, hey, let's give this company some money and let's get them going. So they were given these billions of dollars, and I believe it was close to 3 billion, in order to get internet to all Canadians by, guess what, 2024. We are sitting here in 2024 with zero internet for Canadians. So they made this promise. So you would think at that point that'd be like a big failure, right? Maybe we should
Massive.
cut things off at this point because it's been a huge loss. But what did they do? They made an announcement to sink another $2.14 billion. And they're wrapping this whole thing up by saying, we're doing this. This is a loan, and we're going to get paid back with interest. And their interest rate is 10%. They're providing them a 5-year interest-free. And then once that interest-free portion is finished, which they've equated to be $1 billion in interest that is not going to be paid. So like it's no interest for 5 years. That's $1 billion. And then after that, from year 10 to for the next 10 years after that, so 5 years, it's a 15-year loan. So year 5 to year 15, it would be paid back with 10% interest using the services. So, the services revenue that they get from the satellites would pay. So anyway, the problem I have is it seems like no one in our government is able to do any type of realistic math. That's the major problem, because first of all, this company only has 2 satellites. That is it. They plan on sending 198 satellites into orbit to provide this internet, but they have zero track record to do it successfully. There's another problem. So this is another thing. They are wrapping this as if it's a Canadian company. Their headquarters is in Canada, but the company, 63% of the shares are owned by a New York-based company. So it's not even majority owned by a Canadian. It's owned by an American. So the problem is with this government is they're never accountable. So, for example, instead of telling us it's it's an American company, they're saying no, it's Canadian. It's Canadian. Like the headquarters is in Canada, but the investors are American, right? I mean, there is another like 30.
Well, the investors are the taxpayer, and that's the real kicker here. The people who initially own the business, 60% Americans, they're getting taxpayer money to do what with? Not perform anything. It looks like to any extent. How much internet has been provided to date?
Zero. There's no internet. There's no internet. And guess what? So I'm an outside of the box type of thinker, okay? So yeah. I'm like, let's go on the internet and let's take a look at how much it costs for just one of Elon Musk's satellite setups. So for his, I'm like, you know, what does it cost to get Starlink, right? It costs $500 today to get the satellite and get your whole setup. So if there's 1 million people in Canada that have no internet access in rural communities, that's just 1 million times 500. That's $500 million.
Yeah.
That is, and we've put in now $5 billion towards this company. So think about that. That is like 10 times more money than what it should cost.
Well, 10 times more than just providing people with the stuff that exists. Like they could have internet tomorrow if they just went with Starlink rather than trying to invest in this whole new infrastructure that may take it could take a decade. I don't know how long.
No, they've already had 5 years and they've been zero success in 5 years. Instead of cutting the cord, they've said, hey, we're loaning. This is good for Canadians. We're loaning them these billions of dollars. But it gets even worse because there's ties with Mark Carney. And Mark Carney just came in as an advisor to the government to help Chrystia Freeland because she's doing a terrible job. So he comes in to help, right? And then, right after, then you get this announcement for Telesat. And we're all scratching our heads going, how did this work? Well, we find out that one of his best friends is actually the president of Telesat, and he's received 800,000 shares originally, and then he has warrants. So all of this government support has earned him $21 million. So it's incredible. It's making insiders rich. Basically, it's troublesome.
Well, yeah, it feels a lot like this whole idea of foreign aid. But it's corporate aid. We're giving away tax dollars from poor Canadians that can barely make ends meet right now, and we're handing it over to these conglomerates, these Wall Street tycoons, and they're just handing out our tax dollars. And what do we get for it? Nothing.
Yeah, so
we literally get nothing.
I think what they try to do is like saying this 10% return on our investment is so exciting, but you could actually charge 50% or you could charge 100% interest. When you're getting absolutely zero back, you can charge anything.
Because it doesn't matter.
Because this company is hemorrhaging money. They haven't had any success. So it's they said, well, we've done our analysis and we see that this is a good investment and there's very little risk of failure. I actually see it in the complete opposite. This is actually a very difficult space to get into. It's not something that you could just walk into and be successful. It's risk. There's lots of risk. And so I want you to think about this. What kind of loan can you get at 10% interest? would it be a low risk loan or a high risk loan?
Well, in current day, it would be a little higher risk, if
It would be a
anything.
high risk loan. So this is a high risk loan with a very low probability of success. So we've sunk $5 billion with a low probability of getting that money back of our taxpayer dollars. And this is what makes this whole thing explosive. The explosive part is that we just found out, and that's why I made a piece of content, that's why we're talking about it, that there is absolutely zero they have zero risk. The company has zero risk. They don't have to perform. They don't have to give any internet to anybody, and there's no penalty if they don't provide one single home with internet. It's written in the contract. Is that not incredible?
That's like hiring a roofer and then having no expectancy of, having the guy put a roof on your house. I mean, you would expect that to be a clause in the contract that they would actually provide the service that they're
Well,
being
let's just
contracted for.
let's just say they weren't able to deliver. Why wouldn't we be able to liquidate the company and take all of the assets that they hold, like actually get something back? But based on this writing, there's zero penalty for not performing.
But
I don't
even
know about you, but as a Canadian and Canadian taxpayer, I see this as an atrocious waste of money. It could be easily
yeah.
delivered by Elon Musk and providing his satellites, and we could get the internet tomorrow. And what they've done here is showed once again that they don't value us taxpayer and they don't treat our tax money with respect. So it's just another and I really hope that the opposition government does not stop until they find out where all this money is going, right? Make
Well,
sure,
that's
like,
my fear. That's my biggest fear, is that this is going to turn into another one of those slush funds where there's no guarantee that there's going to be any product at the end of the tunnel of this, paying all of our money, our tax dollars tunnel, over $2 billion, by the way, with a B, but $billion. That's a massive number. And then at the end of the day, we can't even liquidate the assets. Like, we can't even get any of our money back. We won't get anything back. And where does it go? It reeks of the same nepotism and the same, feeding on the trough, like we've seen with all of these other scandals that we're seeing out of Ottawa. What are the chances that this is going to be another one of those cases?
well, I mean, it just doesn't look good. And that's the problem that I see time and time again, is like, Canadians are fine paying taxes. Canadians are hardworking, but when we continually see that our tax dollars are not being respected, and then we have all of these things pop up, it's very discouraging to all Canadians, especially since we have record people visiting the food banks. We have the worst affordability crisis ever. We have I went to the store, or I opened up a Halloween bag of chips. That was my I have my son. He's like, oh, take this bag of chips. So I looked at it, said 12 grams, 12 grams on the bag. And when I opened it, I mean, a couple fell out. That's it.
Yeah, shrinkflation is massive. I actually, incidentally, my kids went trick-or-treating. They got a bag of M&Ms that had only one in it. I think it might have been a mistake, but it felt like shrinkflation for sure, because that's what we've been suffering from a lot these days. And it's an epidemic. It's an epidemic of reckless fiscal behavior on the part of our government. And I want to thank you so much for reporting on these kinds of things. And I'm looking forward to having you soon again. I'll have you on the live show and have you over. But in the meantime, I want all the viewers to go over, check out Marc Nixon on everywhere. All the links will be down below. Go check him out. You're doing fantastic content. I've got nothing but great things to say. I watch you myself. So thanks again for joining me today.
Thank you very much, Clyde. And thank you for everybody that takes come and join me. And Clyde, I'm going to send you some people as well. Thank you very much.